Look how sweaty I am. I look like I just got out of a fucking sauna. But I didn't. I just got done watching Last Night in Soho. Jesus Christ, is this how it feels to review an Edgar Wright film? What's happening, guys? Sweaty sloth over here. I just got done watching Last Night in Soho, Edgar Wright's new horror film. Yes, I can confirm this. It is a horror film. I went into this movie. Ooh. Nah, that's not how we start this. Let me back up a little bit. So I put this movie off for a week now. From what started back in I don't know, man, September, maybe even before. When I first saw that trailer, this was officially, I don't care if the year is halfway over. This is now one of my most anticipated films of the year. When I saw that trailer, I could not wait for this movie. It was that trailer, I was like, fuck A Quiet Place 2, fuck Candyman, I'm gonna see this movie. This movie comes first, and it's gonna be fucking great. And as we got two more trailers, I was like, is this gonna be good? And I put this movie off for a damn near week now. Shame on me! So, Last Night in Soho is the newest film from Edgar Wright. He's done films such as Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim, Shaun of the Dead. He's a very well received director, and he's a very unique one at that. He has a filmography and a cinematography and directing unlike really no other today. This is one of those directors that I always keep an eye out for. But this one, even regardless with it being advertised as his first big horror film, the more I saw about this movie, the more trailers I saw, I was like, okay, I'm not that excited anymore. And I'm not so sure if this is going to be a horror film. It is more of a mystery than a horror film. But there is some shit in this movie where I'm like, oh man. Oh man, he's definitely digging up some new territory. He's digging up something. And this movie, I gotta tell you guys, this movie was a blast. It was a blast. So I'm getting a little bit sidetracked. I'm going back to Edgar Wright and this film. This is the newest film from Edgar Wright, and it stars Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy. And basically, how do I talk about this movie with it making sense and not spoiling much? So this movie stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie. Thomasin McKenzie plays a girl who is moving to London, who is aiming to be a fashion designer. She's obsessed with the swinging 60s, and she's always wanted to go to London. Only her granny's all like, hey, you shouldn't go to London. London's not the place for young sweeties like yourself. And she's like, but Mom, I'm a hipster, and I'm obsessed with the 60s, and, I gotta go to London, duh. So she goes to London, and I'm not going to say how everything unfolds, but essentially with the whole time travel thing that a lot of people are wondering what's going on with that. Basically, she ends up staying at this place. I'm not saying what place or how she gets there or what happens before and leading up to that again. But she ends up staying at this place, and every time she goes to bed at this place, she ends up, having some sort of a dream scheme going on where she's back in the 60s. And each time she goes to sleep, she meets this character played by Anya Taylor-Joy named Sandy. And basically, I want to say that she becomes more or less somewhat obsessed with Sandy. Maybe not to that level, but she definitely draws, big following to her. She sees Sandy, she kind of becomes really stuck on this girl. It starts out with her just wanting to go to bed. She's trying to get as much sleep as she can because this is her, way of going back to the 60s. This is her dream time to be in. And she ends up actually going back to the 60s every time she falls asleep. But every time she does, more and more of this girl is dug up. More of her story and more of who she is and where she comes from and basically what's all going on here. It's a really interesting premise. I'm not saying it's a cool premise or a good one. I mean, it's different, for sure. And even if that doesn't actually sound different on paper, that much different, I gotta say, when you watch this film, no matter what you think of it, or no matter what you are expecting, again, my points from earlier being made, Edgar Wright really does not even just everything that he can with this in a sense, but everything that he can with this in a sense in his own style and his own signature. And as far as the movie of itself, I think that beginning to an end, with this being like a 2 hour movie, which I didn't even realize it fucking flew by, with this being a 2 hour film, and with me having like really mixed opinions of it leading, like leading up to the movie's release, not even that, but like putting it off for a fucking week until now. I gotta say, Anya Taylor-Joy is one of my favorite actresses. She was in The Witch, she was in Split, Thoroughbreds. She's been in a lot of interesting films, a lot of good films for her style and whatnot. Every time I see her in a goddamn movie, I want more of her. Not because she's absolutely beautiful. I mean, she is. I'm gonna marry that girl one day, I promise you. But she is such a defined actress. She gives so much, and she does so much with something that seems so just perfect for her. She's very good at grabbing certain roles, and she's very good with making them, with really building her career up with these roles. And I gotta tell you, this is probably like one of my favorite roles from her, which is interesting because a lot of this is mainly just her dancing and her being a mystery and her, being Anya Taylor-Joy and being awesome at it. I wish I could actually say more about her character, but I can't. But she is phenomenal in this film. I think that Anya Taylor-Joy, I'm not going to say little as she gave because she is in, majority of this movie, but for what she makes seem minimal, which obviously is not, she's fantastic at it. Anybody else could just be like, okay, it's, you're doing this, whatever, you don't suck at it, but you're not a standout. She is a standout in this film. And as far as the other character, Thomasin McKenzie, she hasn't been in too much. I saw her in Old earlier. I don't know what else she's been in. She is good in her role. I think she's fine in the movie overall, and her overall character isn't, bad. But goddamn, dude, I swear to God, dude, I was like, she sounds like a six-year-old. Is that insulting? Is that just me? But like every time she would talk, it's not even like the accent or anything too. It was just like every time she talked, I'm like, are you sure you don't want Anya Taylor-Joy to be the main character? Again, Thomasin McKenzie was not bad in this movie, but for a 2-hour film, I was really trying to accept it and get into her overall, her character, not even her character, but just the voice behind the character. And I'm just like, as fucked up as it is, that's probably like one of the biggest flaws of the movie. And saying that, she really does give a great performance. And I'm not just saying that because she's in an Edgar Wright film. Obviously the way that Edgar Wright did direct her alongside Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic. It's such a ride to watch. It's great stuff, dude. It really is. But she actually does give like an interesting character in general. That, obviously, character has, a lot to do with how, Edgar Wright wrote her. But I'm saying, like, her performance as a character, it's not bad. I just wasn't the biggest fan of, like, listening to her talk throughout the movie, which I know sounds shit, but I gotta be honest. I mean, I'm a critic here. But in saying that, for the 2-hour runtime, for everything that the movie has overall, it is just it was joy, dude. I was having a blast. Obviously, I'm not going to give this the biggest grade, so I am going to have some nitpicks. And I'm like, from what people are telling me, I hate every movie, which I agree with you. I got like a couple hundred Blu-rays in my collection. I should have more for as much as I talk about movies. But my nitpicks with this are probably going to be some that a lot of people are kind of expecting, and a lot of people are probably saying in their other review. The ending of this movie, I'm not going to say that it ruined anything for me. Because, one, the movie, for everything that it offered in its 2-hour runtime up until the ending, I had a blast with. But the ending has a lot. I'm not going to say it has holes in it, because I can't say it because I don't really understand the ending entirely. So I can't say that it had holes because maybe I'm just stupid. But I can say that it didn't exactly satisfy. Even from what I got from the ending, and even like every piece that I had built up to the ending, which I was surprised at myself because I actually got the movie where people were like, somebody was next to me and he was like, I'm lost here, and I'm like, I'll give you the scoop. And I did, and I looked it up afterward, and I was right. But that ending just, I'm not gonna I almost want to say it's anticlimactic, but because you may not actually expect it, I wouldn't necessarily call it a twist ending. It's just one of those endings where it's like, oh, didn't expect that. All right. I mean, I'm not gasping for air, but all right, yeah, I gotta say, I was expecting something else. It isn't that satisfying. There isn't a lot of climax in it. It doesn't exactly sew everything else together. And even if I did get it from what I did get, which I got some of it, not all, from everything leading up to this, it isn't that, again, it's just not that, climatic. I think it's a fine ending, and I think that it's, interesting and whatnot, and even though I didn't get it, because I enjoyed so much of the movie, literally the entire thing up to this point, that just gives me more reason to rewatch the damn thing and hopefully get more out of it. Because I will tell you one thing, I'm going to be rewatching this movie quite a bit. I'm buying this on Blu-ray. And besides that, even with the rest of the movie that I really enjoyed, there was a few times where I was like, the more I watch this movie, the more I'm thinking that the trailers kind of gave a little bit too much away in some instances. But because, that trailer's a couple minutes and the movie's 2 hours and it's Edgar Wright, it totally makes up for it. It's okay. You can still see this movie, not be disappointed. In fact, I was much more impressed than I thought I was going to be. And before I give my review, I gotta say, one of my favorite things, dude, if this movie has a vinyl, I'm picking it up. Anya Taylor-Joy, she gives the full performance of Downtown more than once, more than one tempo. She is fantastic, and the score for this film, not even the Downtown, but just the score, the music that goes with the atmosphere, and not even with the timely, setting of the movie, but just the way that it connects and hooks so well to everything in the movie. Fantastic job. There's a lot of good in this movie. The few things that I did have, issues with were big things, which obviously is going to throw the grade down a bit. But literally everything else for as involved with the movie I was really impressed with. I think this is going to be, for the most part, what people are going to expect out of an Edgar Wright horror film. But I'd be lying if I said what he does with that isn't pretty exceptional and fun. I'm going to give The Last Night in Soho a 7.0 and a half to a 7.1. Again, not a phenomenal score, but definitely a positive review from me. I would say that even with the grade as low as it is, hear me out, Last Night in Soho is probably going to be on my top 10 of the year. Wow, that was fun, dude. Fun movie, fun review. I want to do a second review. Maybe I will do a spoiler. I don't know. But that is my review on Last Night in Soho. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie already. If you guys were like me, kind of, waiting on it a little bit, I'm telling you, pickiest guy around right here, this movie is one of the best of the year. Watch Last Night in Soho. It is a blast, dude. It is a ride. Guys, thank you for watching my review on Last Night in Soho. I hope that you guys watch this movie, and let me know if you guys have seen it, what you guys think. But yes, guys, that's going to do it for my review on Last Night in Soho. I will be back pretty soon here. I'm thinking that my next review is actually going to be Humans from A24. Hear me out. That movie comes out worldwide November 24th. I'm going to a premiere on the 12th. I'm seeing this movie a week and a half early, man. Can't believe it. It's finally happened. It's finally happened. But yes, that will be my next review in a few days. And let me know what you guys thought of the review and of Last Night in Soho. Take care, guys, and have a great night.